Hey there, vinyl community. So, today I thought I'd talk a little bit about a little segment of Iggy Pop's career that I think gets overlooked a little bit. People tend to focus, of course, on the Stooges years or maybe shortly thereafter when Bowie came along and really kind of saved his career. And they did The Idiot and Lust for Life and those kind of classic albums. But as the 70s rolled on and Iggy got more towards the end of the 70s, they did 77. James and Iggy do Kill City, and most of these tracks are a lot. Some of these tracks would have probably, if there had been a fourth Stooges record, would have ended up on that. And I've shown this before. If you're gonna look for it, look for the Bomp Records green vinyl. That's how it originally came out. Um, but but it was after that, in like 1979, 1979, 1980, and 1981, where Iggy wasn't doing very good. And Bowie had kind of done his thing. And although Bowie was still kind of keeping an eye on Iggy at the time, but he was really kind of on his own, had gotten a new record contract, and him and James go into the studio, but this time James is the producer. He wanted to have the role of producer and not just the kind of lead guitar player. So they go in the studio and they make an album called New Value. And I should take this out of here, I guess. It looks better, huh? This is a really really good album. This is 1979, and James is the producer, and Iggy's not in a good state, kind of mentally or physically, but they come out with a smoking record. And the song had a kind of, for Iggy, a sizable hit, track 5 Foot One. But the album is full of really good Tell Me a Story, New Value, Girls, I'm Bored, just full of really great tracks. And I think Iggy's career really, with James involved with it, really was looking kind of looking up when this album came out, even though he was really struggling with drugs and with other issues too. Bowie is a little bit involved in the sidelines, and there's some good stories about Bowie coming into the studio and interfering kind of with what James wanted the direction of the album to be, because he was producer. And James and Bowie didn't get along. But the result of all of that is a pretty great record, New Value. And I think that if you like the Stooges and if you like The Idiot and Lust for Life, that this is an album worth checking out. Great tracks, great production, sounds really good. And I think a real high mark in Iggy's career, even though maybe in other ways he wasn't really doing so well. So that looks like it's going to be okay. Things get started pretty good, and from there, so that's 1979. 1980 comes along, and we get another pretty good record from Iggy called Soldier. And Soldier, now James is out of the picture now. Him and Iggy have a falling out, kind of involving the issue of David Bowie and his involvement. And James says, "Okay, I'm done." And he actually goes back after that and goes back home and goes back to college and gets involved in the tech industry and actually became a very successful executive in the tech industry. And Iggy does Soldier. Kind of notable because Glenn Matlock's involved with this record. And it's another really good record. I would say it's unfortunately, coming down a little bit. And Iggy's lifestyle is starting to catch up with the recording process, and the album becomes a little bit of a struggle to get done. And the record label's not really happy with it. But for us fans, there's a great track, Knocking Them Down in the City, which at least in my area, in the Detroit area, kind of got some radio play. but the album is full of really good I'm a Conservative, I Snub You, Ambition, I Need More, Playing It Safe. Lots of good tracks on this. And again, an era Soldier I don't think ever really hear people talk about too much. And this is a really fine record that Iggy did during those kind of lost years. And I think well worth looking into if you like that stuff. But again, we're still his lifestyle and behavior is really starting to affect what's coming out of the studio. So so that's 1980. Now 1981, and we get another album, kind of in the same vein, but not with as many great songs on it. And this album, reportedly, from the things that we hear that came out of the studio, was a real struggle to make. That there weren't a lot of songs around. There are some good tracks on here, though. Pumpin' for Jill. It's on. Go look on YouTube, and you can find the original video for Pumpin' for Jill, which is just a great kind of relic of the era. You know, very 1980s and very low budget, but I think a lot of fun. So in my estimation, I mean, these are still really fun records to listen to, and but even though from a career point of view, the record company wasn't happy, and Iggy's really kind of on a downward course, you know, with drugs, and now the career's not going well, and everything's kind of starting to accumulate. But you know, that's kind of the backstory. The truth is, we got three really, really good albums, I think, from Iggy. And while this one might be the weakest, this is 1980. These are worth investigating if you like Iggy, if you like the Stooges, because they all try to kind of. This one kind of gets a little bit further away and develops more of a new wave punk style than the other two. But it's part of the trio. You don't want to miss out if you're gonna investigate. This would be worth checking out too. So this little era after this, Iggy does Zombie Birdcage, which is an interesting kind of concept for an album. The execution of it, I don't think really holds up as well as like those three records do. It's an interesting record in its own regard, and it's something separate, I think, from those three records. But sales are even worse on Zombie Birdcage, and Iggy's career is really kind of taking a nosedive. And fortunately, Bowie does come along again in the 80s and again rescue his career commercially, and they do an album together called Blah Blah Blah, which is I don't think a very good record, but it did have some hits on it. It has the SIP, I think Cry for Love is the track on it, and Real Wild One, and it got some movie gigs and stuff like that. So Bowie again helps him kind of rescue his career. But it's really these three that I wanted to kind of point out that I don't see people mention that often. And if you're looking around for the original copies of those Stooges records, and you're looking for something to kind of feed your appetite, these three are really good records, and I think a lot of fun, and worth looking into. And I believe that all three of them have gotten some sort of reissues, so these should not be hard to find. And I don't believe they're terribly sought after, so you shouldn't have to pay a lot of money for them. So beginning with like that, and then moving forward, 1977, 1979, 80, 81. Yeah, cool era of Iggy's career to kind of check out. There were a couple of new release, or not new releases, but new acquisitions that I wanted to show. I've shown these before. This is Destroy All Monsters, and but I went ahead and I've been able to track down the originals for these three singles that the band did during their short tenure. And there's also an EP that they released. But yeah, these are the original singles. This one's a UK edition of it. Cool shot of the band. So So there was that, and a couple of folks asked me about this single. I posted it on my Instagram page, and a few people messaged me about how to go about getting a copy of the original single for Sonic Rendezvous's City Slang. Is a tough find. On Discogs, it goes for $150, $200 for a copy of the original. There are these kind of semi-legitimate copies floating around. This one came with a box set that Easy Action did, and that's floating around. Sounds great, and no reason to pay that $200 if you just want a nice copy of it. And then this one, I'm not mistaken, this was a Record Store Day release by the name on the album. The name of the record company is Devil's Jukebox. So I imagine it's kind of like legitimacy might be less than 100%. Nevertheless, it's a great way to get the single if that's all you really want. I got my eye out for an original, but they're not always real easy to get. Oh, two more quick. I'll mention these. Two more quick singles. Found this. This is another gray market copy of an early, before the MC5 made a record, they released a couple of singles. This is one of them. Finding the original single is tough. But so when I stumbled upon this little gray market copy, I went ahead and grabbed it. We all know the MC5 from that sound on the records that they had. This is an early version of the 5 where they're a little bit more raw and a little bit more garagey sounding than on the albums. And this is another version of the band that if you haven't heard it, I would encourage you to. This is another single. I believe this was a Record Store Day release too. And again, looking at You from the album, but this version of it, the single version of it, is different. And it's a little more tougher, a little more raw, and well worth hearing if you really want to, if you're kind of into hearing all the phases of the MC5's career. This might be an area to kind of check out too. So yeah, I just wanted to mention those. There's another Iggy album that this is the album that he did with Queens of the Stone Age, and this is a different Iggy. This is a older, wiser, sober Iggy, but still a pretty damn good record if you're into kind of checking it out. I think Gardenia was a little bit of a hit, and a cool way. Oh, another way of getting city slang I should mention is, so there's a lot of Sonic Rendezvous's live bootleg stuff. In my kind of eyes, this is one of the first and one of the best. And it does have city slang on it. Now you're getting a live version, and they stretch it out a little bit, but it's still a pretty cool version. And if you don't mind the live feel of it, this is another album worth tracking down. Probably $20-$25 to track down a copy of it. So anyway, remember those 3 albums that Iggy did between 79, 80, 81, and that's a little phase of his career that I think gets overlooked a little bit. So thanks for watching, and hope everyone has a good weekend. We'll see you.